Hi, I'm Lonnie,
I'm Mark.
and this is another comic book discussion on Untitled Nerd Network, brought to you by our friends at Infinity Flux. And I'm actually, um, X-Men Prime came out a couple of days ago. I haven't had a chance to read it yet, but X-Men, 90s X-Men is making a comeback.
And that makes me happy
Yeah, very happy.
because the 90s X-Men was probably the best X-Men that I can recall.
That was your heyday. That
Yeah.
was my heyday.
Pretty much.
That was when I didn't miss an issue. Like from 92-ish to really 98 or 99, something like that.
Sounds alright.
That was it. And we're going to talk about what was probably the biggest crossover. Well, I'd say Age of Apocalypse is probably the biggest crossover. The second biggest crossover in X-Men 90s was Onslaught. And this had about 75 years of build-up.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, not really, but there was some build-up to this, and it all started with the traitor storyline, Bishop's first appearance, things like that. And we knew somebody was going to betray the X-Men, but nobody knew that it was Xavier. Spoiler alert!
If you haven't read it yet, you're 20 years too late.
But they built this thing up so much, and it happened immediately. The first Uncanny X-Men issue after Age of Apocalypse, Juggernaut gets launched across North America. Somebody picked this son of a gun up and threw him across the continent.
Yep.
And he comes to, and he's freaked out. And he's running around destroying stuff. Like, holy crap, he's going to kill me.
Scared he's going to kill me.
Yeah. And finally they're like, whoa, whoa, whoa. They finally just subdue him and almost knock him out again. And they were like, look, who did this to you? And he's like, Onslaught. And they were like, well, okay.
And if I remember, like, when they get him knocked out and they take the helmet off of him and it's, like, carved into his head.
Oh, I don't remember that.
Because, like, if I remember that, that's...
Do we have that issue?
I don't know.
Oh, God. Can you carry this for about 30 seconds?
Yeah, sure. So he's going to dig through Infinity Flux's vast stores of comics to see if we can find this issue. So,
wrong box.
So anyway, for the longest time they were wanting to say that it was Gambit. Everybody kind of say, Bishop didn't trust Gambit the entire time he was around and kept wanting to say that Gambit was going to be the one that betrayed the X-Men. And so when they came to the Onslaught story arc, it just kind of sort of flipped it, and they were like, "Oh, the person who destroyed the X-Men was Professor Xavier." And
yeah, that was rough.
Yeah, it was kind of harsh, and like you get to see like the broken video that Bishop had seen, where it was like, Jean going, "I can't believe he would betray us like that," and then you actually get to see Jean record the video.
Yeah,
and
unfortunately, they have every book but that one.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Because it's popular, someone bought it right here at Infinity Flux. Anyway.
But yeah, they had several things that happened. They had like a break-in at like a Sentinel factory, and like a bunch of stuff destroyed. Onslaught was all over the screens.
Yep.
God, there were like a ton of different things. Mimic, and the Blob popped up, and they were both vastly enhanced.
Yep.
And they were talking about Onslaught this, Onslaught that. This was also right before Onslaught happened. Evil Beast from Age of Apocalypse captured the real Beast and locked him up behind a brick wall and took his place in the X-Men.
Yep.
And so there was a lot of stuff that happened leading up to this. You had, I'm trying to think, Nate Gray. Of course, he was running around. Matter of fact, Nate Gray fought Xavier, and I think it was X-Man number 10, 9 or 10, and he fought Xavier and ripped Xavier out of the astral plane. And that was
I remember that issue because Xavier was spying on him in the astral plane, and Nate was like, "Come here."
That was crazy. Man, it gives me chills thinking about some of this stuff that happened. I'm going to have to go back and reread a bunch of this, but I'll remember it like it was yesterday.
Right.
Yeah, because I remember he ran into Rogue right after that, like the next issue. And, but yeah, all the stuff was leading up, and Xavier, you could tell, was taking on more of a darker tone, but it was really just all the crap that was building up pretty much the month Age of Apocalypse ended and went back to the regular 616 continuity, from there to the beginning of Onslaught was nothing but Onslaught build-up.
Yep.
It was just constant, just stuff happening here and there. And it eventually got to the point where it started in X-Men Prime, where they killed that kid, the kid who was a mutant.
Oh yeah, that's right.
David Hogan was that his name?
No, it wasn't. It was just
Hagen?
this kid, and like they all went and were at his hospital bed, and Xavier.
No,
that was the last straw.
That's not exactly what he. The kid, he was on his way to the Xavier Institute because he wanted to be with the X-Men.
Right.
He was like, oh, and he turned in. He looked almost like a zombie. He green, and he lost his hair, and he would transform and scaly green skin and stuff. And whenever he got nervous, it would start to happen, and he couldn't change it. Well, there was like a report. This was in the original X-Men Prime with the nice chromium cover and all. And so he is sitting in a diner, and he sees a report, and he starts getting nervous, and oh God, I'm changing. So he gets up and rushes out of the diner. Well, this woman and like 3 of like the town bullies or whatever see him. They're like, oh, he left in a hurry. I wonder what he's got to hide. Well, then they surround him, and he changes. Well, he's like literally 3 blocks from the academy.
Right.
And Xavier, like they start beating him, like with bats and stuff.
I remember that part.
Yeah. And so Xavier hears him, like hears his cries for help mentally. And so all the X-Men rush in to save him. But by then, they've beat him to death, and they've left, and Xavier sits there and holds him as he dies. He was like, I knew I'd find the X-Men. And that was really the downward spiral for Xavier, because seeing the news report later, almost a year later, is what caused him to just totally lose it. And it started when in X-Men 25 during Fatal Attractions, when he zapped Magneto and wiped his brain. Because when he wiped his brain, he absorbed the darkness that was in Magneto. So...
because Magneto just never dies.
Yeah. So this is like a year later, and Xavier is sitting alone in his study, and everybody's out looking for Juggernaut, because Juggernaut's come for help.
Right. And I remember he was reminiscing about David dying.
Yeah.
About the kid dying.
And he was sitting there thinking about all the stuff that's happened over the past year, all the failures. He tried to help Sabretooth. Sabretooth went crazy and almost killed Psylocke. Just a ton of things. And so he turns on the TV, and he sees this news report where they've arrested one of the guys that killed the boy.
Right.
And the guy, while he's being put in the patrol car, is like, oh, we'll kill every one of y'all. You can't hide from us. And Xavier just loses it and just like throws something through the TV. And then Onslaught pops up.
Yep.
And
beautiful purple and purplish energy field that surrounded Xavier for the
Oh yeah, and they were like, oh, you sure do look like Magneto. And every time they would mention Magneto, Onslaught was like, shut up,
yeah.
But this story, there were 2 core mechanics to this. There was Onslaught. I can't remember, but there was one which was like the core story of Onslaught, and then there was like the Onslaught Impact books, which reverberated through most of Marvel. Like I remember at one point, the Sentinels basically took over Manhattan. Onslaught took over the Sentinel Army, and this was kind of where they were going, like Days of Future Past wise.
Right.
Bishop's storyline, and Bishop was like, how could I have not? He actually apologizes to Gambit.
Yep.
Afterwards, and was like, look, I couldn't have known. And Gambit's like, yeah, you couldn't have known it was Xavier. He's like, I just got one of them personalities, that people don't want to trust. And so they kind of bury the hatchet. But yeah, that was a really, oh man, like there's so much to talk about.
So my personal favorite part of that is Onslaught eventually gets a hold of Juggernaut and rips the gem of Sidorak out of him.
That was in X-Men number 54, right before the story really kicked off.
And traps him in the gem. And then there was this whole other arc where Doctor Strange comes and he's looking over the mansion in his astral form, and he sees the gem, and he goes in the gem, and he finds Kane fighting Sidorak inside the gym.
I believe that was X-Men Unlimited number 12.
Right.
Because number 10 was where Beast took over. like got the evil beast captured good beast. Number 11 was where it was Magneto and Rogue. They got together.
Right.
Or Joseph and Rogue.
Joseph and Rogue.
And then number 12 was the Onslaught story that had him in the gym.
Yeah, it was that was that part of it, and it was also the other part was the Franklin Richards part of it, where they had Franklin Richards, and Franklin Richards had his little ball, which nobody at the time knew had the Heroes Reborn Earth in it, which that would.
I mean, Franklin Richards is like basically God to the Marvel Universe.
Well, they keep changing his power set, because like in Days of Future Past, his power set was, like he had like these vast powers, but they didn't clearly define them, and that Reed had put these blocks on him, and then they came back around again, and he was a member of.
Well, I heard that
Power Pack.
Yeah, Reed put blocks on him, but I think he knew how to turn them off, but like his future self was like, no, leave them in place.
Yeah. But every time we see Franklin, especially every time we see like him use his powers, they redefine his power set to where now he's apparently, because we find out after the Onslaught storyline that he is the accumulation of what the Sentinel or what the Celestials set up on Earth as for ultimate evolution. Franklin is it. He is what they were trying to get to, which was like I guess a human that can use 100% of their brain or whatever his power set is. But that was my favorite part of it, is just watching the whole Kane, and then when he came out of the gym, he was more powerful than he was before.
So Onslaught captures Nate Gray and Franklin. To get the powers to basically take over.
Yeah.
I mean, to do everything.
To use their powers to manipulate reality into a world that is his vision, which is a weird blend of Xavier's coexistence vision and Magneto's mutant supremacy vision.
It was really... Who was it? There was a part where they saw the Age of Apocalypse.
It was... Bishop remembered all of the Age of Apocalypse because for whatever reason, since he was time displaced, he remembered it all.
Yeah.
And Onslaught read his mind. And also read Nate Gray's mind too.
Yeah.
And got that because Nate Gray was from that timeline.
Well, I know there was the series X-Men number 51 and 52 where they were kind of building up, and where I believe it was Bishop, Gambit, and one more person, but I can't remember who it was. They were on that mutant infected train, and Mr. Sinister was behind it. Well, he ended up capturing Bishop and reading his mind and seeing that he came from another world, and he was like, oh, I need to figure out more about this. And so it was Beast. Beast was there as Dark Beast. And he was like, oh, we can't have him snooping around because he might find out about me. And so, they end up doing all kinds of other stuff. But that was when you kind of started. This also started building up where we knew something wasn't quite right with Gambit. Even though he was cleared of being the traitor, something wasn't quite right. He still had some secrets.
Yeah.
And stuff, because Gambit knew, like they were at Sinister's base, and Gambit knew exactly where they were at, even though they were knocked out when they got brought there.
Right.
And Beast is like, oh, Gambit knows something.
Yeah,
so,
and that's where we found out that Gambit was the one who Sinister used to hire all the Marauders.
That happened in Uncanny X-Men number 350.
Yeah.
And Onslaught happened in 334, 335, and 336.
So a little bit before. So, but they were hinting, they were leading.
Yeah.
That's where that story arc started.
That was when that arc really started firing up to fever pitch. But yeah, the Onslaught storyline. Oh God, I mean, there was a different storyline in every title.
Oh yeah.
Because I remember I was a big fan of Generation X, and like Emma Frost took all the girls off by themselves, off hidden somewhere, to kind of just slumber party through the Onslaught battle. I mean, that's basically what happened. And like X-Force, they were put in charge of keeping Nate Gray safe. We all know how that turned out.
Yeah, that didn't turn out well. And then Hulk was in there somewhere too, because
Hulk and Cable teamed up and fought Apocalypse.
And that's where we find out that the more that Cable exerts himself, the more that Techno-Orvinus takes over, and his arm got all really deformed. And
they really went there with that story. That was where we really find out, hey, the virus, the more he exerts himself, the more screwed up he is.
Yep.
And the aftermath of that was he almost died, but he had some stuff happen. He ended up having like a near-death experience. He met his deceased wife and everything, and he ended up healing and coming back even better than before. But the big thing was the fact that the Avengers, Fantastic Four, a lot of the Inhumans and stuff, they all came together and helped the X-Men fight. And then at the end, Onslaught starts evolving
into pure energy.
Yeah, well, first he became like the skull face. It was like, rah. And then it got to the point in Onslaught Marvel Universe, which was the conclusion, where he started having like energy bubbling out of his suit. And then finally Hulk got up there and fought him and cracked the shell. And when it erupted, all the Onslaught energy came out. And they were like, well, we need somebody to contain the energy.
And
Thor
it split Hulk into Bruce and...
that hit when he cracked it, split them into two different entities, and it was the Hulk was laying there and Bruce was laying there. And
this was that was one of my favorite Hulk moments, because this was the Professor Hulk, where he had fully integrated all of his things.
And he had Jean turn
Bruce everything
off.
And as Jean's probing his mind, this was one of my favorite parts. Is as Jean's probing his mind, she's like, okay, and he's like, just shut Banner down. And she asks him, she's like, who's Betty? And he goes, leave me that.
Yeah.
And then he just and barrels in and punches Onslaught and gets split in two, and Onslaught's armor shatters, and then he's just pure energy. And then we go to what you were talking about with Thor.
Yeah, Thor decided, he was just going to fly in and do his damage, and they find out that you flying in and containing
it gives him a physical form.
Yeah, hurts Onslaught, and it contains the energy, and so everybody decides to sacrifice themselves. They can't be a mutant because a mutant
will power him since he's a mutant.
And so they all, run in and everything. The Avengers run in together. What I thought was really funny is Dr. Doom was trying to siphon energy with a device.
And the young Tony Stark tackles him and flies in with him. He was like, oh, no, you don't.
No, what it was is Doom asked him, he's like, what's the meaning of this? And he was like, it's a new concept, Victor. It's called sacrifice.
Yep.
I remember that. And they end up all flying in, and, he ends up, which, Spider-Man wasn't around for that.
No, he wasn't.
No, what happened to Spider-Man is the battle with the Sentinel that day in Amazing Spider-Man, I think it was like 415, really just took it out of him. When he fought the Sentinel and won, he was like, I'm done.
Wasn't it also during that time that the Ben Reilly clone was running around too?
That was him.
And, okay, that's right. And yeah, he was completely worn out, because that was when Peter had lost his powers, and you had Ben Reilly, and he'd gotten beat the snot out of. And then
Peter would have been there.
Peter would have been there. But yeah, like all the Avengers go in, and then like basically all the X-Men fire all their energy at him, Cyclops, all that, and it kills Onslaught, and then that is what
Franklin has the little beach ball.
Franklin has his little beach ball. Xavier has no powers after that. Which this all led directly into zero tolerance, because everybody, all the outside world saw from the news reports was the X-Men just killed the Avengers and the Fantastic Four. And so that led into the whole zero tolerance thing, which we're going to have to talk about maybe in another segment, because I know you're a big fan.
God, man, I like talking about this stuff, especially when you know what's going on, and we're like, God, I could sit here and talk about 90s X-Men all freaking day. Like now, I want to go read X-Men. What we got here? Something. Anybody got some 90s X-Men?
90s X-Men. I don't see anything on the shelf behind us.
They're all. I was looking through the boxes.
There's some 80s X-Men up there.
Yeah, that was a little bit before my time. I was pooping
diapers.
80s
X-Men. Oh man, Sunfire.
Oh, they have first appearance of Mimic over there.
Oh, they did?
Yeah, it's like.
Oh man,
what? $25?
$25 for the first
No, it ain't that. 55.
55. Not too shabby.
But it's a pretty good copy.
Right here at Infinity Flux.
Yes.
In Hickson, Tennessee.
We're gonna have to do we gotta go through there and just like show some of the highlights at some point.
The Batman versus the Ninja Turtles. That was funny. That was actually a pretty good story arc. That's a recent story arc. That's a pretty good story arc.
I heard about it when it came out.
We'll have to do some DC stuff too, because we got a question up there, and I think you had said something about wanting to talk about Death of Superman in a segment, so we'll have to come back to that
eventually.
Yeah.
Now, in the immediate aftermath of Onslaught dying, they Xavier, who was it? Valerie Cooper came.
Of course, Val.
Yeah.
The mutant affairs liaison for the United States.
Yeah, she's like, we need to take Xavier into custody and make sure this isn't going to happen again. And everybody's like, over our dead bodies. Then Xavier
like,
pops
nope.
up. I'm going.
He's like, just lock me up.
But that was apparently a bad idea, because we later see him in Onslaught Epilogue where they are heavily mistreating him, and he's in the custody of Bastion.
Yep.
And things have just gone to crap for Xavier. And he ends up meeting that little girl.
Whatever happened to her? Because, I don't remember seeing her past that storyline. Like, the little girl with the big black eyes and the pink skin. And
Did she not remind you of the little girl from Marvel's?
Kind of.
The
She also
X-Men?
reminded me a lot of Leech and Artie.
Yeah, I'm not sure where she went. That might not be a bad thing to look up. Hey, whatever happened to so-and-so?
I can't remember her name. I think it started with an L or something.
I can't remember.
We'll have to look that up.
But yeah, the whole Xavier thing led directly into Zero Tolerance. You don't find out really what happens to him until after Zero Tolerance.
Because then there was the search for Professor Xavier when they relaunched everything again.
And
which
I actually thought was well, never mind. We can't talk about Zero Tolerance yet. I was about to go into my Jubilee thing again. Onslaught. Let's see. I'm trying to think of what all happened.
A bunch of stuff. It's a big, huge con. I mean,
There
it was a big, huge thing because it was in almost every title.
Entire Marvel universe.
You had
X Factor.
The Hulk. Oh, the Hulk fallout from that was great because you had because when all of the heroes were going into Onslaught to hold him,
Bruce
Banner woke up and Banner went in, which left a bannerless Hulk.
Yeah, and he
on our Earth. And my favorite part of that was, he gets this sidekick who is from the future where he was the Maestro.
Yeah.
He gets this sidekick that teams up with him, who is a descendant of Jones. She's like Jones's granddaughter or something.
Rick Jones?
Yeah, Rick Jones's granddaughter. And she's talking to him, and then they finally they go to the government, and they're like, in the past it was leave Hulk alone. Now it's leave Hulk alone or else. The next time you attack Hulk, he will destroy a city, and he will let everyone know it's your fault.
I never read that immediate aftermath Hulk. I read about it, but I never read it.
I read that one issue, and it was like, this government group attacks him, and he beats them all off, and then they go to the United States government. They're like, now it's or else. Next time you attack me, I'll destroy a city.
Holy crap. Well,
because he was that was like the merger, because at that point it would have been like Joe Fix-It Hulk and Savage Hulk, was all that was left really.
Well, not only did all that stuff happen in Onslaught, but I actually forgot a major plot point. Onslaught, when he first attacked the X-Men, he left Beast alone. And he was like, "Oh, you knew that I'm from the Age of Apocalypse?" And he was like, "Yeah, of course.
I've known since you came in the door."
Yeah, since you've been here. And so he gives Beast the tools to do his own thing.
Yep.
And Beast has had Havoc for a while, and he ends up turning Havoc into his that.
They start the new Brotherhood.
Yeah,
where it's Havoc and Beast and Fatality, and they eventually recruit Nate Gray.
For a little bit.
Yeah. But yeah, that Brotherhood was kind of cool because, again, Havoc. Love Havoc.
I remember reading a lot because they were a big X Factor villain for a little bit, and he went from that into that Mutant X series.
Oh yeah,
where he was like kind of in an alternate
bounced
world.
into an alternate universe. That was a pretty cool series with some weird twists on some people. Like Storm was a vampire, and Archangel's wings were demon
was like
wings.
some kind of witch or something.
Something. I can't remember what was going on with Jean. And Alex had a son with
Jean
Madeline.
was like the Goblin Queen.
No,
still.
Jean was. I don't know, because all I remember is Madeline was there, because it was Alex and Madeline.
Okay, that it was Madeline. It wasn't Jean.
And she was the Goblin Queen.
Yeah.
And they had a kid named Scott, to be precise.
That's kind of creepy.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, anyway.
And so Electro was Scott's nanny. In that universe, there was some weird stuff in the Mutant X universe,
and it really all started in Onslaught.
Yeah.
But yeah,
that's a video for another day.
The Good Beast actually got back because he escaped and helped X Factor fight Dark Beast and all his people.
Brotherhood.
And they ended up Captain America and the Avengers ended up defeating Holocaust and Post.
Yeah.
In that battle. I remember that, and I can't remember exactly what it was like, but Captain America, his field combat, decision making, and everything played a big part. And but the biggest thing that I enjoyed about Onslaught is it led into, and people hated this, but in my personal opinion, Onslaught led to my favorite arc of all time, Heroes Reborn. I loved Heroes Reborn.
There were pieces of it I liked, pieces of it I didn't like. But there were pieces of it that they didn't like. Each issue only ran for 12 issues, so they left a whole. So like in the quote unquote Heroes Reborn universe, there was a whole bunch of plot lines that were left untouched. Like through the majority of it, Thor's talking to Mjolnir like it's a person. And they never wrap that up. They never wrap up why he's talking to Mjolnir like it's a living, breathing person. They never really wrap up why Hawkeye is wearing a full face mask. Well, they originally wanted to make the series long term. Oh yeah, it was supposed to be It was supposed to be one of those relaunches where they relaunched everything.
Yeah, but you had Jim Lee doing Fantastic Four and I think Iron Man.
Right.
And then you had Liefeld doing
Captain
Avengers
America.
and Captain America.
And there was just some of that which is funny because Liefeld went on to do, for an independent company, he did The Fighting American or something like that, which was pretty much a blatant ripoff of Captain America. But I agree with you. Some of the Heroes Reborn stuff was good, like how they did the
build
Hulk,
up to Galactus was amazing.
Like how they did Hulk and how they did Iron Man in that.
Yeah.
Was pretty epic. How they did the Fantastic Four was pretty epic, but it also felt really rushed.
It was.
Because they went like boom, boom, boom. It's like for Fantastic Four, it was like issue 1, like the entire origin was contained in like maybe 5 panels, and then all of a sudden they knew how to use their powers all instinctively and everything, which bled over from the other universe. And then there were people that were in Heroes Reborn that didn't go into Onslaught, like Loki. Where the hell did Loki come from?
Yeah.
And then like the Enchantress. Pretty much Thor going in there, like somehow dragged all the Asgardian people over because like they were there. The Executioner was there, Enchantress was there, Loki was there.
Were there people who appeared in Heroes Reborn and 616 simultaneously?
There was a Hulk on both planets.
Was Loki on
Loki
616 as well?
No, because like at that. Hang on.
Let me think about it.
Because they were doing the Lost, because they were doing Journey into Mystery, because they reverted Thor back into Journey into Mystery, and they were doing the Lost Gods story arc, and
I hate to cut you short.
I want to think it was.
I just realized that we're starting to talk more on Heroes Reborn, and I really want to do a Heroes Reborn segment.
So we'll come back to that. I go back and reread it. Actually,
I could sit here and like basically discuss an entire Heroes Reborn segment. This because I love it. It's one of my favorite storylines.
We'll have to come back to it.
But Onslaught did carry over and start that, and there was just so many things. I mean, we've covered pretty much the basic plot points. I remember at one point Onslaught created a second son.
Yep.
And how that didn't kill everybody immediately, I'll never know.
Because physics.
I'm thinking it was more of an illusion, maybe.
Could have been. I mean, because he had Xavier's mental powers, but then again, with Magneto's magnetic powers, he could have done it too. Because that was one of my favorite Magneto moments was during Alana's funeral. He shows up.
Yeah.
And of course, everybody immediately everybody immediately goes to attack him or whatever, and Rogue flies up and she's talking to him and trying to remind him of the time they had together with the Savage Land.
I remember she kissed him.
And she kisses him, and he backhands her off of him, and he says, "Even if you drained me to 1/10 of my power, I could still drag the moon out of its orbit." And I'm just like, okay.
I remember that because he like threw her out of the way, and he was like, but anyway, thanks for the kiss.
yeah. But anyway, thanks for the kiss. I remember all the times, but yeah, even like at 1/10 of my power. So it's theoretically possible if at 1/10 of his power he could pull the moon out of its orbit with full control over the electromagnetic spectrum. He could probably create another sun,
or create another sun and protect the Earth from it too.
True.
It's just a show of power.
Right.
Whew, man, oh man. All right. Well, anyway, we've pretty well covered Onslaught.
I think we have.
That was like another series where Jubilee was thrown under the back burner for.
Yeah,
because I don't think she would have been able to do a whole lot.
Well, she was running around at the slumber party with them and them.
Yeah.
Emma and M and who are the other girls on Gen X?
Emma, M, Paige, Guthrie.
Paige. Oh God, another one of my favorites because she's the underutilized.
Husk.
Like Cannonball is like the he's the Guthrie star, but nobody ever really talks about Paige all that much.
She's pretty cool too. She actually had a better power set, I think.
I think so too.
Shapeshifter, but she had to tear her skin off.
Which was kind of a cool way to do it. It's
yeah.
Like, you know what? I don't need this right now.
Because I remember there was actually in Generation X #1, she was out jogging, and she runs up on Jubilee, and Jubilee's sitting there, and she's like, "Oh, we got class in a little bit. Might need to take a shower." She's like, "Oh, I don't have to shower." And she just tears all her skin off.
And Jubilee's like,
"Yeah,
gross."
She's like, "You might want to find a garbage can for that because there's just a big pile of skin laying there."
And, and that was one of those Jubilee gross much.
But I was about to say the Onslaught series led Generation X into another story arc, and then I quickly realized that no, it didn't. That was Operation Zero Tolerance.
Led Gen X into another
story
arc.
But anyway, that'll be it. This has been the Onslaught discussion, 90s X-Men, and I'm going to have to do some more reading because this stuff has got me wanting to read 90s books again. But anyway, I'm Lonnie.
I'm Mark.
We are Untitled Nerd Network, coming to you live from Infinity Flux. This has been a discussion of the Onslaught storyline.